This student of mine confided in me that she felt led to come and experience what I do. And before coming to yoga, she was suicidal. And she said that I saved her life, that she learned through my presence and through my story and through other things that she did with me, that she wasn't crazy. She now is thriving, and I'm just so proud of her. She's so courageous.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Monomyth Diaries, a podcast where ordinary people get to share their hero's journey. I'm Mandy, and I'll be your host. We'll discover powerful insights, critical moments of growth, and much more. Thanks for joining us. We all have a monomyth to share, and someone out there needs to hear it.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Regan. We are so excited to hear and be blessed by your story today.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. You guys are great.
We are very excited as well. But before we dive into our conversation, we like to warm things up a bit with something that we call the Monomyth Story Starters. This helps us to get you comfortable, to get us comfortable, and give our audience a chance to hear some fun facts about you and your life. What is a book that has changed your perspective?
Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. And it's something I reread every year, like my own personal pilgrimage with that book.
If your life had a theme song, what would it be?
I did it my way, or I did it God's way, like a riff on
God's way. Love that. What is your favorite kind of weather?
Oh, I like it warm, not hot, but warm and sunny. Like 82, that's like a perfect temperature.
That's how I like it too. So it's not too hot, it's not too cold. It's just like the perfect. Yeah, I love that.
Regan lived for a long time in California. You probably had better weather there.
You sure did. In rural Missouri. Yeah.
What is your favorite quote or mantra?
Oh, I'll quote the founder of my grade school. Every thought and feeling you have is your choice.
Oh, that's a good one. And that's so true.
I love that.
Right? It's so true. Are you more of an introvert or an extrovert?
I think I'm an introvert because I get fed by being alone, but I've got really high social intelligence. So people think I am an extrovert.
Do you collect anything?
No.
Okay.
I like to get rid of stuff. That's more my jam.
Get
You too.
that. What's your favorite sound?
You know, I really love the sound at night here of the crickets and the locusts. That sort of cadence of sound brings me back to some good memories from when I was young. I don't have tons, but the sound of crickets is one.
What's your favorite holiday tradition?
I love Thanksgiving. I cook for 3 days. Like,
Do you?
I don't know. Yeah, I do. I cook as if I'm feeding like a small army. I don't know why I do that. Just the spirit of that holiday and having my children and playing games and laughing. And
Do you prefer calling, texting, or video chat?
I guess text. There's an efficiency to text.
Well, that's all of our questions that I have. So thank you for breaking the ice with us.
Sure.
I'm going to hand it over to Mandy and she will guide us into the next part of our conversation.
Regan, as Rachel said, thank you so much for your gracious gift of time and your willingness to share with us. We're very happy that you're here. Before we jump in, we're going to do a little bit of housekeeping. I want to let our listeners know that we might sound a little different today. And if you're watching us on YouTube, we definitely look different. And that's because we are recording remotely today. Regan, as she said, is joining us all the way from Missouri. And for longtime listeners, you will know that we are recording here in the greater Houston area. We are super grateful for the gift of technology today to reach beyond our backyard and connect with voices from all over. If you're listening to us on your favorite podcast app, we encourage you to head over to our YouTube page. That will give you an opportunity to see our beautiful faces as we're having these conversations. And it will give you an opportunity to see additional photos and resources and things like that when I drop them in. Also want to share with our listeners that Regan has an incredibly inspiring monomyth, one that she has already written into a book called Tragic Magic. And she was awesome and gave me a copy of it. So I've had the privilege of reading it recently. And I truly enjoyed getting to know Regan and her journey. Definitely recommend grabbing yourself a copy of it. And we'll be sure to drop all of that information on how to get yourself a copy into the show notes. But today's bonus episode is part of a special series that we're doing here called Borrowing Miracles. And Regan's going to be adding her miracle to that collection. So, Regan, would you mind starting us off by setting the stage and sharing a little bit about yourself with our audience?
Oh, sure. I'm a seeker. I'm a teacher, but I'm a seeker. So I teach yoga as an active service here in my community. My path was really informed by my early education. So I began meditating at the age of 3. We sang devotional songs about the power we had to choose our response to life and the power of God's love. That was sort of the devotion of the day at that school. We would photograph our energy field with Carillion film and do Tai Chi for gym. So even though I, lived a conventional life for a good chunk of it, trying to just be normal and find comfort somehow in societal norms, it's not really my design. So I couldn't really do it for too long. Earnestly tried, and then had a dramatic spiritual awakening at 27. And that changed my life. That brought me back to the wisdom teachings of my youth, to the clairvoyance that I shut down as a kid because it was too much. It all came back. And the love of God, the felt sense of that, lasted in my system without interruption for 3 years after that fateful awakening, and changed me and changed my path. So found myself working at HeartMath soon after that.
Do you mind telling us a little bit about HeartMath?
Oh, yeah, sure. So HeartMath founded itself in, I think, 91. And what HeartMath is 3 things. They're a research institute. So they research the role of the heart in the system in all sorts of different ways and dimensions. They have tools and methods for people to learn how to emotionally self-regulate and how to create physiological coherence in their system. And then they have technology where you can actually measure that in your practice of their techniques. So not many people knew about HeartMath at the time that I was teaching there. You can take what they do very wide from a spiritual perspective, and it can also be very narrowly applied in that when you're emotionally triggered, what do? Most people don't know what to do, right? They're not taught what to do. Well, this is one of the answers to what to do. So it teaches you through the breath and through the discipline of learning how to connect to an elevated emotion in a moment of stress, how that changes the rhythm of the heart, changes your biochemistry, changes your cognitive function. It's just a good thing to do, to love and be grateful. So they took ancient wisdom and basically packaged it for the Western mind. So their big breakthrough was in the mid-90s, just a little bit before I think I came to work there. So anyway, I could talk about it all day. It's very, very good work. Changed definitely my life in terms of the miracles that we'll talk about, today. It is my practice. Heart-centered meditation is my jam. So I worked there. On my first day of work there, I felt like I had made a colossal mistake. So anyway, if you read my memoir, you'll understand a little bit about why that was. Great technology, great methods, good people, just not a fit for me organizationally. So I wasn't there too long. And then I went back to corporate life. So I've always, kind of been in this rhythm of being out in the world. I was an executive in Silicon Valley while also holding at the same time the wisdom that I know, what I've been taught, what I have taught others. So that was always, since my awakening, something that was present within me. But now I don't have to do the corporate thing, which I'm grateful for. And I can just literally every day be of service to people and to share what I know. So that's what I do.
So you mentioned that you started meditating at a very early age. I think you said the age of 3. And I think that that's how your miracle begins. So can you take us back and tell us what happened when you were meditating at Joshua Tree?
Yeah, sure. Now, just to be fair, it hasn't been that I meditate every day from the age of 3 to my current age of 59. I took long breaks, but now I'm absolutely disciplined in that practice. So I had traveled to Joshua Tree to work on my book, Tragic Magic. We were still locked down in California, and I just needed to get away. we were all in the house, like couldn't go anywhere. So so I left and I went to write, and I pray and I meditate every day. And I had a particular ritual that I did before I would write. And on this fateful night in the middle of the high desert, the voice that I have listened to since I was a kid told me I had to urgently move home. That was it. No detail as to why, just a directive. So I come out of meditation. I look to see if I have enough bars on my phone to make a phone call, because I'm in the middle of nowhere. And the first person I called was a friend back in St. Louis. That was home. That's where I grew up. And she's a realtor. And I said, Andrea, will you help me find where God wants me to be? I'm urgently directed home. She said, well, of course. Second call was to my husband. Said, God says I have to urgently move home, and I do what I'm told. So he makes arrangements for me to fly to St. Louis the following morning out of Palm Springs, which was, the airport closest to Joshua Tree. And I'm looking for a house day after, right? I live on the beach in Monterey Bay in a resort community where I could walk to an organic grocer. It was like such an aligned life, other than the COVID stuff. I just knew the truth of it. And then once I was in St. Louis that following day looking, I was like, this doesn't feel resonant. I don't think God wants me in St. Louis. And again, just dropped in and tuned in, and God says Franklin County. I don't even know what that means. So I said, Andre, God says I'm supposed to live in Franklin County, which is a rural community about an hour west of St. Louis. That's where I live. So it took about 3 months to get everything organized to move. So that was in December of 21 that I was told. Got the beach house sold, moved to rural Missouri by March. Everybody thinks I am cuckoo as Cocoa Puffs. Like, why would I leave that beautiful life? It's beautiful here too. It's different.
You had been in California for 25 years, right? Okay.
Right. Yeah. So to my inner circle, to my children, they're like, what are you smoking? In fact, my younger son said, Mom, I don't know who you talk to, but I don't know why they would tell you to do this.
God is not the God of convenience, that's for sure.
Yeah. So anyway, we were here in March, and then first week in June, again, I meditate every day. And on this particular day in June, God says I have to urgently go to a doctor. So urgent was in both transmissions. When you're guided by God, there's no urgency. There's not the felt sense of urgency in the transmission. It's quite neutral. So there's no stress or panic or any of that. It's just very matter of fact. So I found a country doctor. I was able to see him the next day, because you can do that in a small town. And what do doctors do? They listen to your heart. And he listened to mine, and he said, Regan, something's terribly wrong. We need to get you scheduled for an echocardiogram as quickly as we can, which was the following day. And then the day after that, I was told I was dying and that I had a birth defect in my heart. So I had a bicuspid aortic valve. So it was born wrong. And the only solution for the state of my heart was open heart surgery to replace the valve. I had severe stenosis or calcification of the valve because it had to work so hard over my, at that time, 55 years. And the reason God called me back to this area is Barnes Hospital, where I was born and where my older son was born, just happens to be one of the best places in the world for aortic valve replacement. So had open heart surgery to replace it on a Friday morning. I was cleared from the ICU the following morning. And keep in mind, like, they saw you in half. It's kind of a big deal. They saw your sternum, they take your heart out, you're on life support. Anyway, so I was cleared from the ICU the following morning, which is a rare event. And I was home by Tuesday. And come Tuesday, the head of cardiothoracic surgery there, who was my surgeon, came to see me, and he pats my leg playfully and looks at me and says, Regan, there is no medical explanation. I can't explain how you were alive prior to this. It was the worst aortic valve he'd ever seen. I had less than 0.2 centimeters for blood to flow through the valve, which in cardiology is considered not capable of sustaining life. He said, I don't know how you were alive. I don't know how you walked, much less this yoga you were teaching on your back lawn. And I said, well, do you believe in Jesus Christ? I said, and I asked that from a wide point of view. but Jesus is my teacher. And he said, well, I do. I said, well, that's the only explanation I have. And then when my scar healed, it healed in the shape of a crucifix.
So when you had your surgery, it's only supposed to be.
It's a vertical cut. Yeah, it's a vertical cut. And so when I showed it to, he wept. So I was there for my follow-up just with my cardiologist that had been assigned to me, post-surgery. And I wanted to show, and I just had an intuition he was in the office. And so I asked, I said, is here by chance? And he went to look and he said, yeah, he is. I said, well, I need to see him. And it's literally across the hall from where I am. And there's all these workstations, there's all these other surgeons, like the vibe is super serious. I'm sure they're like charting their open heart surgeries or something. And I come in there and I'm happy and alive. And I said, oh, it's Regan. And he looks at me, he goes, oh my God, you look amazing. I'm like, thanks. I said, I have something to show you. I bare my chest. And he starts to cry. And all these other surgeons are like, the head guy is crying. So they stand up and they're circling me and I'm baring my chest. And they then are weeping. And he looks at them, he goes, have you ever seen anything like this? No. He said, well, Regan, it's another miracle because it's a vertical cut. And I clearly have a horizontal line too across my chest.
Wow.
So.
When you have heart surgery, the cut is up and down, right? That's the one that's supposed to be there. But the horizontal one is not supposed to be there.
Right. It's all incredible. And when you face death, I wasn't afraid. My spiritual practice and the things I've directly experienced have taught me there is nothing to fear. So when you know that you're eternal and you know that you're divine, you face death differently. And frankly, you live differently too. But I know it was my spiritual practice that had kept me alive. That I'm certain of.
I know when I was reading your book, I was very impressed with your state of mind. You were very calm going into all of this, into a surgery you don't know whether you're going to wake up from. Mm-hmm. I read to my husband a section of your book about the amount of blood flow that's supposed to be flowing through your heart. And you had said it's the size of a $50 is what it's supposed to be. Yeah. But the amount of blood flow going through was flowing through something that was less than the size of a Q-tip.
Stick.
That's crazy. Mm-hmm. You are a miracle.
Absolutely.
And I think the other thing too that we need to point out is, yes, you're at one of the best medical facilities for this sort of surgery, with one of the best surgeons who I know you also said in your book had been doing this for 40 years. Mm-hmm. And you were the worst case he had ever seen. That's incredible in itself as well. What do you think caused you at Joshua Tree, which is where this starts, to be that obedient?
I mean, the first experience I had of that inner voice leading me correctly was when I was 13 years old. And I was in the car on the way to the orthodontist with my mom. Keep in mind, I'm 2 years ahead of myself because of this exceptional school I went to when I was young. There was no grading or grade level. Everything was customized. You went at your own pace. And it was quiet in the car with my mom, which that's a miracle. I don't even know how that was true, but it was. And that voice said, you need to repeat the 9th grade. And again, that was it. And I just knew the truth of it. And I looked at my mom and I said, Mom, I want to stay back. I want to repeat the 9th grade. I was like bullied. I was like 4 feet tall and it was hell. And there was no safety at home either. I needed safety. And she just looked at me. She's so cute. And she said, well, honey, I don't know a thing about that, but you have my full support. And it was a turning point in my life. So I always then, in my moments of quiet, when I heard that quality of guidance, I knew what it was and I knew to follow it. And then realized too, when I didn't, that's when life got really messy. I mean, even when I went to work at HeartMath, I left a corporate career and they were paying me $12 an hour. I mean, everybody thinks, like, why would you do that? Because God said so.
I love how obedient you are. I strive to be that way. And I think most of my life I have not. And it made my life very difficult.
I have definitely learned slowly that the more faith that I have in the Lord, when I get up from a prayer, the more I just give it to him and don't get up and worry about it, my prayers get answered a lot quicker. I love that you have that strong faith like that. So that must have really helped you during the process of your surgery and your healing and recovery and all of that stuff.
Well, obviously, Regan, you are a walking miracle today. In the second segment of this episode, we want to talk about the boons. And the boons are just gifts and miracles that come from these sort of experiences. So let's talk about some of the gifts and benefits that have come from you being obedient and this miracle happening to you.
Yeah, I mean, as much as gratitude is a practice of mine, you have a much different relationship with what it means to be alive when there's no medical explanation of it. So my desire to be of service is definitely driven by what I have experienced and known. And I still find myself taking things for granted. I mean, that's so fascinating, given everything. It's just part of what it means to be human, that you have to constantly check in around that you're not taking it for granted.
What about professional boons?
Oh, my yoga center? Yeah. So I converted this huge garage. I have a 10-acre estate, very pretty here. And yeah, when I first got here, not knowing yet that I was dying, I was guided, to bring my teaching to this community specifically. But yeah, so I converted this big garage that smelled like cigarettes and that housed like a man cave plus some tractors into what I think is like the most beautiful space I've ever seen. And I designed it from bed. When I was recovering from open heart surgery, I almost died of heart inflammation post-surgery. I was really sick for 6 months. But it's like if I was supposed to be dead, like I just knew I wasn't going to die of the inflammation. That just didn't make any sense. So I teach here, teach HeartMath here. I teach yoga here. I have other curriculum called Living the Principles. I host ceremonies here. I host other practitioners who are doing beautiful things. And I only require them to give me a 10% tithe, because so many people that are in this spiritual work, I mean, they're barely eating. So I want to have a space for other practitioners where the economics are better, for them.
You had said in your book, you call it active service is what you said, and that you teach yoga for free.
I do. That's another God directive.
You were showing us before we got on live a little background. Can you show us? Can you?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Of course.
Here's a little tour.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That's a beautiful facility.
So behind that divider is about 1,500 square feet of open space. And I also teach senior yoga. So I teach seniors for free. I have an 89-year-old student. He's so inspiring.
You had shared with me before a story of a particular student that you had. Do you mind sharing that? I think that's also a miracle that has come from your being obedient and your acts of service. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, sure. So the reason I'm emotional is just it's a lot, right? And where I live, I don't feel alignment, right? I don't have alignment here. There's a reason I'm here, right? To bring the teachings, which to this community are things that they're not familiar with, right? But I don't feel a lot of alignment, and I get lonely. So anyway, this student of mine confided in me that she felt led to come and experience what I do here on a Saturday. So she came. And at the time that she started coming, she was suicidal. And before coming to yoga, had been out in the grass with a gun. I mean, really that close. And she said that I saved her life, that she learned through my presence and through my story and through other things that she did with me, that she wasn't crazy. She was going through her own awakening. And what people don't talk about, these spiritual teachers in the public eye who act like it's all rainbows and unicorns, that's just not true. And when you awaken, it's a very disruptive process. And you question your mental health. Anyway, in this young woman's case, because she is young, she's only in her early 30s, she now is thriving, and she recently became a death doula. And so she's working with people, helping them cross over. And I'm just so proud of her. She's so courageous.
It's a wonderful ripple effect that your obedience helped her, which I'm sure she will now help other people in that community.
Yeah, and I told her when she shared that with me, I said, you know what? That's reason enough for me to have been called here.
Yeah,
Right.
the power of one.
That's right. That's right. And I have another student who now is doing yoga teacher training at the ashram where I studied with the teachers that were the direct students of Baba Hari Das, this silent Indian yogi that was my teacher's teacher. So anyway, I have a student that is learning truly, like learning what it means to not just practice yoga, but to teach it. So I'm very excited about that too.
Look at all those lives you're touching. Well
Yeah.
done. Well done. Can I give a special shout out to your husband? When you called him from Joshua Tree and said, we need to move to Missouri, that he was supporting you, picking
That
up your
was
lives
great.
and just moving. What an amazing man.
He is. Yeah. And now, even with my younger son who moved with us, the one that said, I don't know who you're talking to and why they would say this, like he's thriving here. But yeah, it's worked out. That's for sure.
Any other boons you want to share with us? I can think of one more if you want me to keep putting them out there.
Sure, go ahead.
Your book.
Yeah, though, I was directed to write that, gosh, way before I began. So that was a hard one. I kept saying to God, yes, later. Yes, later. Like not saying no, yes, I'll do it. Yes.
But not right now.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean the feedback I've gotten from readers really touches my heart because it's why I wrote it. Another act of service, right? Hoping that if you read my story, you see something in your own story, right? Something that feels aligned or connected or relatable, so that when I also share the miracles that I've known, that you believe too that those are possible for you.
Yeah.
Because they are. You don't have to earn your divinity. That said, you do need to create the inner conditions for that relationship.
Absolutely. All right. Any other boons?
I don't know. Just be disciplined. If you can't sit in the quiet with yourself, start figuring that out, because that's where this whole thing begins, in that devotional relationship to yourself and to your God. And we are so distracted. We are so pulled out of the truth. So, yes, it's hard. And that's why discipline is so important. Motivation's like, oh, I'm motivated. Discipline is you do the thing that you don't want to do. So that's what I would want all of the people listening or watching right now is begin and find ways to feel consciously the greatest love you've ever known, to go back to that place and don't think about it, feel it in your quiet time. That will raise your vibration, that will improve you biochemically, improve you rhythmically. You wouldn't want to have an important conversation in a loud room, like so frustrating. Well, your inner world is either quiet or noisy. So if you know that it's noisy in there, then know that there's a lot of direction you've been given that you can't hear.
That's good. You are amazing. Love that.
Thanks.
How do you hope that your miracle will inspire our listeners?
Well, I hope it gives them hope. Hope is such a transcendent energy. And in the yoga tradition, it's said that faith and hope is a prerequisite for vitality. That it's really hard to have that felt sense of vitality in the absence of faith and hope. But just know that in that hope that I hope my book evokes, it does require things of you. if you want to have difference in your life, if you want to have a different experience, the only thing that needs to change is you. Like we tend to be very focused thinking that if X, Y, and Z externally changes, that I then will be different. Newsflash, that doesn't happen. You might have a little honeymoon, like a little bit of lift from a different thing that you're doing for a little while externally, but it's the interchange, right? It's doing the tending. We all have trauma. Nobody doesn't. And what those traumatized aspects of yourself need is your love and your witness. So bringing the energy of love to those wounded parts of yourself, not to change their mind, just to love them.
Well, your miracle definitely gives me hope and gives me encouragement to continue to work on being obedient when I get those callings. So thank you. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Before we wrap up, I just want to thank you again for sharing your miracle with our listeners and ourselves. For anyone who's listening that feels moved by your miracle, if they'd like to contact you, how can they get in touch with you?
Best way is to head to my website, regancaruthers.com. There's an opportunity because I do coaching for a select group of people. So they can set up a free discovery call with me if they're interested in working with me in that way. The website also just has a lot of, helpful content. They can follow me on Instagram. I'm not active right now on Instagram. I'm taking a long break, but there's a lot of videos and things in my grid that people can tune into, and you can DM me through Instagram if you'd like. And then where I'm really spending most of my energy right now and would love your people to join me there is I'm writing on Substack. So they can simply just search my name, Regan Caruthers, and find me. I'm not charging for people to have access to my writing, and I'm publishing some essays there that I'm quite proud of. So that's another way that they can, not only read my writing, but comment and, be in relationship with me through that platform, as well.
Yeah, Substack is something that I was relatively new to. I follow one other person on Substack prior to you, and I went and checked yours out, and you are an excellent writer. So I've been enjoying reading your essays. Thanks for doing that.
You're so welcome. Thanks for reading them.
All right, to our listeners, thanks for being with us today. If you're listening and you know that you're a living miracle too, we'd love to hear from you. Reach out and share your miracle with us because your story matters, and it just might be the miracle that someone needs to hear today. Regan, thanks again for allowing us here at the Monomyth Diaries to borrow your miracle.
Yes, thank you so much. It was amazing. Thank you.
Thanks, ladies. I hope I see you again.
Thanks for joining us on the Monomyth Diaries. If this episode resonated with you or someone you know, we'd love for you to share it and help spread the inspiration. Don't forget to follow us wherever you listen to your podcasts or on YouTube to never miss an episode. If you have a moment, we'd also appreciate a rating and review. It helps us reach more people with stories of transformation, healing, and growth. You can visit us at monomythdiaries.com or text us directly through the show notes to connect, share your thoughts, and keep the conversation going. And if you have a story of transformation you'd like to share, we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, heroes, let's journey together through our monomyths.